All right, Oliver, take it away.
Yeah, so one of the things, I mean, it bothered me that I couldn't show it, or that it didn't seemingly work with storing the motion preset. But what you actually have to do to store the preset is you have to select the root of the hierarchy. Once you do that, it will actually store the correct way, and then it'll recall correctly. So that was just one thing. It bothered me because I had different things selected when I stored the preset, but you actually have to store the root of the hierarchy. Probably should be a warning message in there. I'm gonna work on that so that we get something like that in there. Okay, last preset. And then I didn't realize that this is gonna take this long to show. I apologize for that, but the last preset, and for that we'll just set up something real quick. And this time it won't be cars. This time it won't be single objects. So, spheres.
Oh,
so I'm going to bring in model presets.
Just to mention real quick, if you guys want, if anybody on there wants to post a link, you have to get a permit from me. So just type in a box that you want to post something, and I will give you a permit. Sorry, go ahead, go for it.
So here is I just want to set up something real quick, and again, I'm going to use the model presets for this. But there is the DMI Car Collection. I'm not sure. Hopefully, people know about it. It's sort of objects of free libraries. They're not for commercial use, but you know, it's just a crap load of cars, like really a lot of them. And so I'm just going to load a few of them. So let's see, Lupo here, Jetta. And you can see just how easy it is to, you know, load all of them essentially. And we're just going to do a quick instancer setup. Just make a null here, instance generator. Let's see here. Let's select all of these. Oops. There we go. Now we're going to select them all. Add select from layout, and we're going to do a rectangular array. 10, 1, 5, let's see, 10. Sorry about this, just a little bit on, let's do 30. Okay. So we have, you know, a quick, so we can hide these. So just a quick instancer setup. And what you'll notice here that, you know, just some sort of parking lot, but what you'll notice that they're all parked the same way. And it's kind of like annoying sometimes because sometimes, you know, people reverse into them or, you know, forward, and you just want to change that real quick. And I see that question come up a lot, you know, how do I change this instancer so that, you know, I do that? And yes, it's something that it's actually not very difficult to do, but what we also now have is, you know, you can go into node editor here. You have to do it nodally. You can actually go, I have something called node presets. Where is it? Where are they? Here we go. And node presets are, again, you know, you can have all kinds of different presets. In this particular case, I have some instancer presets. And I happen to have a preset that just rotates instances plus minus 180 degrees only. So we can put that in here, and you can add to whatever nodes you have in there, or merge or replace them. So if we hit replace, you can see it. Sorry about that. It sets up the instancer, and if we now look, you will have some cars somewhere. Actually, we have like some of these, I guess, but the ego. Let me copy this to all of the different nodes. So rotate 180, select it here. Oops. 80. Sure, this one doesn't have nodes on. Do this again, add the same thing. Do this. And the last one. And what you'll see now in here is that, you know, some cars are pointing forwards, others are pointing backwards. And you really didn't have to even spend a second on thinking on how to do it. Yes, you had to initially, you know, it's just done by a gradient and a fixed random input. And so while you have to set this up once in your life, when you want to reuse it, you don't have to think about it again. You don't have to re-set up everything. You just literally apply a preset. And that's, you know, one of the advantages of having nodal presets. Now, you can also use this particular preset in another node context. So node context means, you know, there is instancer nodes, there is displacement nodes, there is surface nodes, there's all these kind of different nodes, and sometimes you just want to use the exact same thing in some other context. You know, with this, you essentially can store that now and apply it in different areas. Surfacing, like there's, if we go to one of the surfaces, just to show it real quick. Actually, let's just take the body here and set up and go into node graph here. And if I go to my presets, I have a random instance color. So let's just do replace here, and you can see it immediately set this up. And you can see some of the cars now here have the different colors. If we take this, copy it now to all the other bodies, you can now see that we have random instancer colors set up for all the different bodies. So it's always about, you know, being able to reuse things that you have set up, you know, prior in your life. This is for if you had wood panels on the floor and you wanted to, you want to use the same panel, but you want to just, you know, offset them by 180 degrees, for example, or 90 degrees, or any angle really. You just want to set it up once and never have to worry about it again. The node presets are really incredibly powerful, but I think at this point in time I actually want to move away from the presets just because I think I've bored people too much with it. So let's move on, I think. Unless there are specific questions about the node presets, then type them in, I'll answer them. Oops, actually, Kieran, all presets. So I brought up Modeler earlier, and the model presets are available within LightWave as well, within Modeler as well. So you can see there's a little model presets button. And come on. There we go. And so let's just, you can see all the presets that we added earlier there. It's the same exact library. And let me just pick one here, like something like this. You get the same thing where you want to load it. And so you can see now that this is a preset that I've just loaded. All right, enough presets already. Here's one that I've loaded. This is from one of those kit bashes, and you can see down here that there's no UV map set up or anything like that. But what we want to do is we want to actually take it into Substance Painter and just do something very, very quickly. So I don't have this in the OD toolkit yet, but this will be coming very, very soon. There's a thing called, can models be loaded without clicking? No, they cannot. You have to, at this point in time, because you have to decide whether you want the object in the content folder or whether you want the object in some other subdirectory. And unfortunately, there's no ability to do shift clicks or control clicks or anything like that. I'm kind of bound towards what LightWave allows you at that point in time, so that it's never a one-click thing, unless, you know, in the IES presets, for example, they are. But to go back to this, we have, you know, an object that doesn't have a UV. Now, in order to bring it into Substance Painter, we need a UV. So I have this tool that says create UV. You can, of course, make a, let's do this. You can make a quick Atlas UV because, you know, we don't have a lot of time. But you can see it's not the greatest UV map, and it's not necessarily great for painting anything like this in Substance. So I actually have something different that makes use of an open source tool called Atlas UV, which is not the same as a LightWave Atlas UV, but all we have to do is, let's say, we'll save the object, save it on the desktop here, and we'll run this tool. And it takes a little bit of time, but it's all completely without any sort of user interaction. you don't have to do anything other than run the tool. Now, this specific tool will only work on the PC side. It won't work on a Mac. There's no Mac equivalent that I believe. So you need Atlas. You need to use this. It's going to be included within the OD toolset. I'm gonna just because it's free and open source, so I can actually just include it, so you don't have to actually download it from somewhere else.
I remember isn't Atlas 3D.
The downsides of that specific tool is it smooths everything and it creates triple polys. That's not something I can currently get rid of. That's just something that the tool does. But I'm going to show you why that's still beneficial. So you can see here, we're going to turn the normal map off. And so if we look at the remap now that was created, it's actually much better. You can see there's no really tiny items. There's, it's just much better distributed and it's packed quite nicely. So in order to get that into Substance, you can save that now as an FBX or OBJ or whatever it is and export it, or you can just click and this is part of the 2018 toolkit, export to Substance Painter. So once we do that, you'll see Substance Painter automatically launches. Come on. And it launched on my other screen. So there we go. So here's the object that's automatically loaded in. Again, you didn't have to save anything. You didn't have to adjust anything. You just brought it in. And so we're just going to do something very, very simple. Let me see. Peel paint. See, we'll just use this. So we'll just drag this on here. And it takes a little bit. Sorry about that. So we have something like that, and then let's do another quick hammered. Let's just use this. Actually, close some of these. So 1 second. Actually, I made a mistake because I dragged it. So peel paint. Okay, and all we want to do is the typical Substance thing. We're just gonna throw some edges. So what you want to do once you have your object imported, actually before all the stuff I even did, just do a quick big mesh maps real quick. Use all the defaults. So this isn't going to be a Substance tutorial. It's just something that it'll make it easy to understand, or why I'm doing this. So then we're going to add a mask here. Let's do a white mask, and we're going to add an effect generator here. And now we can use the effect generator. Oops, where is that? Oh, come on. Where is my panel? Oh, there we go. An effect generator, we're just going to use an edge note. And second, make sure I didn't make a mistake here. And yeah, we're just going to do something really silly. I mean, something as simple as that. Again, not supposed to be a Substance tutorial. The only thing that really bothers me right now, this should be my hammered. Somewhere I made a mistake. Yeah, okay, I don't want to spend too much time on it. But again, that's textured now. What we're going to do is we're going to export those textures. We're going to use the PBR Metal Rough and just decide where we're going to store these. It's called export. Oops, export. And we're just, again, not going to spend any. The only thing I did want to do is I wanted to change the resolution. This is kind of crappy. So let's do at least 2K and export them again. So okay, there we go. So once we have that, we'll go back to LightWave. Actually, we go here, and we have to save this object because we never did. This is called leg with UV, something like that. And now we can go here, and we'll import that object. And you can see it's just, obviously our untextured version, but what we have in here, we have the PBR Importer. And the PBR Importer essentially is extremely helpful with this kind of scenario. We're going to point it to that folder. This is the export folder. And you can see it automatically assigned these channels that it found, these maps that were baked out of Substance Painter. And there's a whole bunch of settings that you can set up. You can switch to Octane and LightWave. You can use specular workflow and metallic. I don't really want to go into the difference between all of them. You can use transparency clip map. It's part of PBR workflow. But the biggest thing is it will organize these channels based on their names. And so whatever, you can see what the tokens are here. It really, as far as I know, it uses most common tokens. If you find something that within your workflow you have something named differently, that it doesn't automatically do it, you can assign the channels by hand, or you can just probably email me and say, hey, could you add this sort of description? And if it's something that is applicable for a wider audience, then it's just something that I would add. But all you'd have to do now is just click OK. And you can see that right now it turns on smoothing. I have to fix that. I've been meaning to fix that for a long time. But if you look into the channels now, you can see all your maps in here are set up. So if we switch to sRGB, you don't have to, but just to show it. If you switch to sRGB, now here's your color map and everything that's in there. So that's how easy it is, to bring these things in. If you then go to Painter again, and let's just say, let's add a paint layer. And let's just call, let's just do very, very LightWave kind of thing. And let's say just export the textures again. And remember how when we change the instance color, when textures get automatically updated, when you go into LightWave, they automatically will here as well. So you can now see in here that's automatically updated. So you didn't have to reload. I mean, in the old days, you'd have to reload the image and things like that, but that's not something that you'll have to do anymore. So that's the easy way of doing that. Obviously, you can do that all without my tools. It's just a little bit more painful. Can we move the left eye up? Yes, not in this one. It's not rigged. But again, it's just something really, really quickly. So that kind of brings me to buffers and things like that. I'm not going to actually close Substance yet. We might go back to that. LightWave 2018 has all these different buffers set up, and it's fantastic because we've been asking for it for a long time. They've always sort of been in there, but now it's very easily accessible. And you can look at sort of like all the different base maps and stuff like that. It's just extremely useful. But unfortunately, working within the buffers is still sort of tricky in LightWave. And let me just add a quick ground plane here. So, for example, if you look in here, there's no ambient occlusion buffer. So how do we get an ambient occlusion buffer? Well, it's really not that simple. It's really not that hard. You basically, manually, you would go into the buffer system here and you create something that's in there now. It's called a custom buffer. And then, that custom buffer is available within the surfaces, and then you apply nodes and, all these kind of things. And just me even saying it kind of seems to make it sound ridiculous. but all the different things that you have to do to do that. And you know, I would sort of agree with that, and that's why I come up with easier workflows. So, for example, to add an AOV buffer or an ambient occlusion buffer, you can see under buffers here, I have a whole bunch of different, you know, buffers. And so you would select all objects that you want to have that buffer applied, because you can be actually, you can only have one object with an AOV, or you can have 1,000. You know, it really depends on what you want. You have complete flexibility. So if you want to create one, you just select all the objects, you click the ambient occlusion buffer here, and you can give it a name. You can set some parameters if you want, but by default, you know, just leave it, depending on the scale of your object, and you just hit OK. And when you do that, you can now see that you have an ambient occlusion buffer here. And that's as simple as it is. If you wanted to bake this ambient occlusion buffer to any, you know, to like, if you wanted to bake this lighting as a lighting map, as a UV map, all you would have to do is you go in here, set the surface baking camera, select the mesh. In this particular case, let's say we wanted to bake the ambient occlusion of the leg, select the UV map of the leg, and you want to be a square output. Oops. 24. And you need to look through the camera, obviously. But now that essentially bakes your ambient occlusion map. Or if you just wanted to use an ambient occlusion pass, you know, without the baking camera, to use in compositing, that's, you know, that's essentially what you would render. But that's how easy it is. So especially also when you, in my case, you know, a 3D artist might not always do the compositing, but you know, you might have things where, hey, can I have like this, let's assume this is a scene. Hey, can I have a map for just the ground plane? And again, to do that is very, very simple. You have a couple different. You select the objects. See, I do it where I basically say, okay, somebody asked me for a ground plane. Well, you know what? I'll give you the ground plane, and I'll give you the object, and probably all the other objects, just in case you come back to me. I don't want to have to re-render this. I'm only going to render this once, and give you all the possible things that you might need. So in order to do a sort of map passes, you can do a per object pass here. And as soon as you click that, it'll go through its thing. And now you have an object ground plane here, and you have an object with just a leg. And then again, those are mattes. Those are not, you know, the colored, but those are just mattes that you can now use in Compositor to actually do whatever you want. You can do the same thing you saw when I did the AOV here per object. You can also do per surface. So whatever you have selected, in this particular case, it makes no difference because there's only one surface per item. So it would create the same thing. But you could have, if there's 10 surfaces, each of the surfaces could be its own buffer and its own mat that you give the compositor. You can do things where you can group certain things. So now we have a mat that has the object and we have a separate mat for the object and we have a separate mat for the leg. But if you wanted both of them together, you could actually create a group mat. And so, for example, object group, and you can say combined, for example, and you can. It should always be something that makes sense to somebody else reading it, not just you. Combined doesn't make a lot of sense in this particular case, yes, because it's only 2 objects. But you know, if it was a little bit more tricky, then you want it to be a little bit better name, just for the person that has to deal with it in the end, for their sake. And you can now see that there's a group combined, and that combined will have those 2 mats. If you wanted to go completely crazy, which sometimes again is helpful, you can do, so if you go back to Modeler and look at this, you can see that some of these, if I just hit select connected, you can see that, you know, they're individual components. They're not literally merged. But let's say, you know, here we have a foot and we wanted to treat the foot separately in compositing. We would basically go back to layout, and we have something called parts AOV. So let's just select this object, the leg, because that is made out of multiple parts, and we can do something that says parts AOV. And as soon as you do that, it automatically try to name it in a sort of logical way. And when we do that, you can now see that there's leg parts. And you can basically see there's a different color identifier for every part of the object that's disconnected. This you could then, of course, use within Substance Painter to paint. In Substance Painter, again, not to go into it too much, but there's a thing, add mask with color selection. So if you bake that mask out, you could actually then, in this thing, you can actually specify a specific color. So you would pick a specific color, and with that, you would only paint or have an effect on that one color. Even though you didn't really do anything to split up this object initially anyways, you just used the parts AOV. That's what they're used for. There's things like, let's see, what do we have here? There's a color ID part, which is, in this particular case, doesn't make so much sense because you need multiple objects. But the color ID is essentially, I'm going to just run it anyways. You can essentially do, it's what object ID and material IDs are in LightWave, except they are your clown pass, which is this colorized version versus the floating point version, and they're anti-aliased. Now, there's a lot of back and forth about whether it's good for them to be anti-aliased or not, but if you're using the clown pass to begin with, and you're using it as a color key, an anti-alias pass can actually be quite beneficial. And so if you're using that in After Effects or in other applications to sort of treat certain parts of an object, if you want to separate certain parts of an object, you can use the color ID AOVs here. And again, it's per surface or per object, and of course you can do one or the other. There's no limit here. You can do a depth AOV, surface groups. So if you had multiple materials that, for example, there was a lot of gold or there was gold in multiple surfaces, or there was silver in multiple surfaces, you can select all the silvers and make a surface part and a surface AOV. And all that would essentially do is create one of these buffers that, gives it to you in a combined way. Once you store all of that, let's just, hold on. What time is it? Okay, I'll try. So let's just render one of these. Oops. Control P. And let's just render. These are automatically normally checked, but let's just render all of these and render them as a multi-layer. And we'll store them desktop, just one frame. Should be all good. 0, 0, and let's just render it. Shouldn't take that long. And while that's rendering, I'm going to load up Fusion. That's my compositor of choice. But you can do this, and there's a video online about how to do this in pretty much any other applications. So let me do this. So the render is finished. Come on, Fusion, don't leave me hanging. Okay, so we're going to load that render in. There we go. And, there's a lot of different things here, which I'm not even going to, just going to do a quick, I want to do a Fusion tutorial, but just to show you, how any of this stuff is used now. So we have this loader here, and we can paste that, and then there's a script, again, that comes with OD tools that says the map extract right here. And as soon as you run it, you can see however they were named in LightWave, that's how they're named in here. So if you wanted to, for example, just the object leg UV, or the leg UV, which was our object, you want just that mat, you just select it and hit OK. And if you look at it in a different viewer, now all you get for that is this mat. If you wanted to change it to something else, or again, you have multiples of these, you just want the ground plane. That's just a ground plane, and now you can use that to again. I'm just going to do a silly quick proof of concept to show you the. So So, you know, if you just wanted to adjust the ground plane, you know, that's how, you know, easy it is to work with that. And again, from a compositor standpoint, they don't have to, like, I literally just give them all the mats and they can easily pick, you know, what they want. And as long as you do that, they're not going to come back to you and say, can you also render me a mat for this and render me a mat for that? Because that's always the time consuming part, and I hate it. And these are just black and white mats, so they're very small. They don't add a lot to your image. Your image isn't going to get 10 times the size if you use 10 of these image maps, or 10 of these mats. You know, they're just black and white, they're compressed. It's extremely easy to use. Any questions about that? AOV workflows, essentially. You know, I mean, you could ramble on hours for just that part, but. Okay, so no questions. Good.
We have about got about 60 people online, or it's pretty good. So yeah, you're doing.
Yeah,
great.
hopefully, can you tell the script again? What does that mean? Carlo, come on, English.
That's right. You guys,
I mean, all of those little AOV tools. Oh, the script Infusion. Okay, that's again that comes with all the tools. And I closed Fusion. It's gonna take another 5 minutes to load Fusion. Hold on. It's you basically you right click on the loader and you go to script, and it should be called something like OD matte extraction or something like that. And if you use After Effects, I think there's a matte extract there as well. There's a video about those. Let me see here. So in here, might as well select it. In here in the script, OD LightWave matte extract for Fusion. Because Fusion doesn't have it natively. In After Effects, I think they have EXR.io or something like that. And that will give you the same sort of UI where you can, based on name, select it very quickly. And you know, notice the prefix here. Group basically means it's a group of multiple things. Object would be a single thing, and then there's also SRF, which would identify as surface. So things like that. You know, it should make it very, very easy. I mean, I find it painful when I get asked, you know, especially like you might be working on a 3D scene and 2 weeks later somebody's actually going to comp it, and then they go, oh, can you render me a map for that? Every single time it's like, oh, you know, try not to cuss. That's what that is for, essentially. What's next? Let me see here. This is trying to figure out what to show next. I mean, there's no way. We got like, what, 45 minutes left. There's no way I can get through all of them. I'll show one cool thing. Hold on. Some stuff. Okay, let's go with Lucy. Come on. Load it. Okay, so we have Lucy here. And it's an extremely, well, not extremely, but it's a fairly high poly object. It's 2 million polys. And if we, you know, sometimes, this is not going to be the case in this particular thing because LightWave deals with this quite well, but if we have a lot of different objects and we work on a scene, based on how many polys you have, it can be actually incredibly quickly brought to its knees. But like any other application, so LightWave isn't by itself there. But so what I a lot of times do is I take an object like that, and I don't know how many people are familiar with instant meshes. That's one of those things that was made freely available. I also integrated it into LightWave via my tools. Steve Hurley has a plugin called ZRemesher that uses it. But essentially, this is sort of the same thing. So if we go to the object here now, actually, not so much setup. There's something called Easy Mesh Simplifier. So all we have to do is select the object. You go to Easy Mesh Simplifier, and it's going to ask you, you know, what is the poly count that we want in the end. And let's just do something ridiculous, and say 2,000. It doesn't really matter. And it will do all its thing in the background. And while it's doing that, let me see a couple of the questions. OD copy paste, maybe I'll show at the very end. The external UV tool, it's a tool actually by Microsoft that is called UV Atlas, I believe. But you won't be very happy with it in terms of by default, because it saves as an SK mesh thing, and you know, I'll release something there that you know, that should be you know, very easy to use, so that people don't have to worry about it. And it's just one of the tools. There's actually another tool that I'm having trouble compiling right now because I'm not on the C side really. That's going to be even cooler. But I think there's a lot of that kind of stuff will be coming very, very shortly. So I think there's some exciting stuff to be said there. But so you can see this all is happening in the background. It does it all automatically. And you now actually have a very low-res version of it. Not very useful for your normal workflow maybe, but where this comes in incredibly handy, I'm going to delete this initial object here from the scene. So let's say I had a whole bunch of them, or even just this one. LightWave is a lot snappier with just 2,000 polys. But, you know, for rendering time, I obviously still want to have the original object. So I have object replacement here for render time. Once you select it, you go to the properties, and you can now, at render time, you can specify, at render time, we actually want Lucy. Here, you can see it created an instant version, that's the low-res version. That was automatically loaded in LightWave. But now we actually want Lucy. So, and then you can click Enable here. And if, let's go here, and you can see that's what we have in LightWave. But if we actually hit F9, you'll be able to see that that's actually going to render Lucy. So there's our full-res version of it. And as we go back, we're back to Lucy. So it makes it incredibly quick to go, you know, or incredibly convenient having some of these low-res objects. And that could have been a box, obviously. It could have been anything. So you can work within the scene interactively much, much faster with these low-res objects. But then when you hit F9, it automatically replaces it. And so it's, you know, this works on ScreamerNet or with LWSN, but I find that is quite useful. This will work with VPR just as much, except right now there's a bug in LightWave that is hopefully going to be fixed soon, that when you switch out of VPR, it actually doesn't replace it until you would hit F9 again. That's not something that I can actually do, but or that I can fix. That's something that has to be fixed by LightWave group. But for F9, F10, you know, that kind of stuff, this works perfect as it is right now. Let's see, some questions. Yeah, I mean, you know, OD tools, it makes use of LightWave. Like LightWave can bake things from a low-res to a high-res object. And actually, I don't think this object has a UV setup. You would need a UV setup. Let me just check. Then I can show that. Don't think, yeah, there's no UV here. But you know what? Let's actually use my experimental code here to make a UV. Might as well do something on the fly. And all of this is on the fly, but okay, so there we go. Let's just save that as a instant UV. So that kind of comes towards another sort of, I have an empty scene, and we want to bake now some of the stuff from the high res to the low res. So under setup here, there is also easy texture bake. Easy texture bake will basically ask you for the source mesh, which in this particular case would be, where is she, Lucy, and the target mesh would be the instant UV one. And you can see the UV mirror is automatically defined. It only found one. Otherwise, it'll give you a thing to select. And you can set what resolution you want to bake as and hit OK. Switch. I don't think I need to, but. So it takes a little bit to load, obviously. But now what you have set up, if you go to VPR, it looks like all kinds of nothing has happened. But if you look through the camera view now, you can actually see that's the UV map that was created. And you could, for example, if you wanted to just look at the normals, these would be the normals that are created. These would be the tangent space normals. So if you wanted to create the normal map, and you can essentially save those out, and that's how you can bake right within LightWave. All I'm really doing in the background is I'm not doing anything, amazingly sort of thing, but I'm setting these things up as a surface baking camera. I'm setting up things that have to be hidden and not hidden. I'm creating UVs, and so just that you only have to click once instead of going through this every single time and setting it up. You can see obviously UVs are the best in this particular case, but you get the point. So that, or hopefully you get the point that this is how very quickly you can bake all these different maps. If you want to just the raw color, for example, which is in this particular case is just gray, but you have all the different channels available here for you. If you want to just anything, any of these channels, that's how you would set up baking within LightWave with the native tools. And all the Easy Baker does for you, all the Easy Texture Baker does for you, is set it up. Is that TriCaster Guru? Does it answer your question? And that's that's the render time replacement. Another thing in here is, and I don't really have anything prepared, so it's hard for me to show this, but a lot of times, there's also an object sequence replacement. Now, LightWave has this. LightWave has oh yeah, forgot. Sorry, Jose. There's an object sequence replacement, and LightWave already has this, but the problem with object sequence replacement is that you have to prepare your object first, because it'll overwrite the surface every single time it's loaded in. So with object replacement, you can actually specify a surface library file, which all you do is you go in here and you save this as a library. So whatever object you initially have, you save it as a library, specify it here, use it as a base name, and then every single time an object gets replaced, the surface is automatically updated. So it makes it a lot easier for, like, if you have real flow meshes or any other meshing or object sequences from Houdini or Modo that you load in here, you don't have to prep the object every single time, because the problem with prepping the object every single time while it works is time consuming, because every time you change the surface, you have to resave every object in that sequence with that surface. So with this, all you really have to do is you resave that one file and point to it. That's how the object sequence replacer differs from what LightWave's native one does. Other things that have been requested by certain people, and this is kind of like I love user requests, when they come, and because it's just that means people are using it, and again I love improving workflows. So like simple things is like something like if you want to just quickly select all nulls of a scene, or you want to deselect all the nulls. Sometimes that's extremely beneficial, so there's tools for that. Again, literally just letting you easily deselect and reselect nulls. If you've used the new surfacing in LightWave, I'm going to be jumping a little bit back and forth here now, because it's just not enough time to go through all of this, but I'm going to some of the highlights. So if you are in LightWave and you switch to like different materials here, let's switch to standard, and you play around there a little bit, and then you go to dielectric, because you're exploring, you're experimenting, and then you go in a surface editor and the nodes, and all of a sudden you have all of this. I find that extremely annoying. So there's a couple of different things that I have to remedy that, and they can be found here. And one of them would be, if you just want to reset a specific material, you would just click reset material right there, and what it will do, it will just set up the dielectric again, and with the default settings. But again, if you also have this, and let's say you have a couple couple nodes here, and this one is connected. Actually, this one's connected to here. And you have a whole bunch of disconnected nodes, and you just want to clean them up and get rid of them because it's cluttered and you might not need them anymore. There is a surface cleanup somewhere. Surface cleanup right there. And that essentially gets rid of all the nodes that are not connected anymore, just to keep things, you know, nice and tidy. And what else? So much.
And the silence is deafening.
Yeah. I love your surface to weight mass tool too. Yeah, okay, that's actually a nice one. Let me do this. So I have an object here. Surfaces. And you know, it's just 3 surfaces. But sometimes you want to just be able to use a specific. Sometimes you want to use this in a different tool, or in a different way. Like you need a weight map because you can't necessarily in a nodal context get a specific surface. So in order to use this as a tool, like you can see, let me just actually switch to the standard material because it's faster to show. So you can go in here, and if we go to weight map, gradient, weight map, we can see that there's no weight map in here. But let's just say we want a weight map for only this surface, the middle surface. So there's a tool in here that essentially says surface to weight map. And as soon as you do that, you can now see that you have a middle weight map. And that middle weight map would be the polys of, would be just this section. So it's very easy and quick to just, you know, convert these things around. And again, there's multiple manual ways of doing it, obviously, but the purpose of the tools is to make to improve your workflow and to improve the speed in some of these things, and not having to worry about it at all. Did I do this right? Did I select this? You know, just something very, very quick and fast. Quick and fast, the same thing. There are tools like, let's say we have to load one of these objects, this one of these images. Again, kind of, you know, if you want to get this image now into this surface, you have to add the image node and things like that. And again, it's just something, if you do it with a lot of images, it's mind-boggling. I hate it. And so there's a thing where if you select the image, you can just do set texture image. And on the texture image, you can actually say, where do you want to plug that in? You want to plug it into, you know, any of these. What kind of mapping do you want? Here's an image, or you can load a specific image. And if you want to just pipe it into color, planar mapping, we just do that, and you can see that it just mapped that on there. So it adds the nodes for you, stuff like that. The surface to weight map tool, I believe, works in Modeler as well. Yes. If not, it is actually a modeler tool that's being run, you know, in the mod command context within LightWave layout. Let's see, other things. Oh, right. This is probably pretty good. Show this one more time. So, yeah, sorry, I'm gonna have to do a torus again. And so instancing, again, instancing, and this is useful for other things as well, but just one quick thing. Actually, yeah, wait, we're going to show something first. So, I'll make a quick one. Actually, let's do 10. If I believe 10, sure, that's right. Oh, I did it the wrong way. Second, it'll make sense in there. 5. Okay, so all I have here is a quick box that's subdivided. And another tool that I just added, because some people were asking about it, is a easy bend setup. So we're going to do this, easy bend deform. And there's a couple things in here. Now we're on the z-axis, and I did this specifically for something else I'm going to show afterwards. But we're going to click the z-axis here, and that's what you end up with. If you go to the rotation channel of this, you can see there's a controller here. You can now just bend this object, whichever way you want. You can also twist it, by using the bank angle. A couple different things like this. You can set the taper of the end and also the beginning. So a lot of different things on how to control it. But where this becomes cool is to combine it again with other things. So let's do our torus. And we want to instance something around that. Or we want to instance this specific thing around the toroid. And that toroid, instance the object. Let's do surface distribution. Normal. Let's do 100 of them. Let's make them a little bit bigger, maybe. So but the main thing that I want to show here is that even with this little distribution, that you always in LightWave have problems that things intersect. Like you'll find that the same. Let's actually do 500, probably easier to see, where you have certain instances sitting on top of each other, and that's always incredibly annoying. So one way to get rid of that is called CrossOn Distribution. And again, there's a tool here that makes it very easy for you. Object CrossOn sample. And it allows you to basically say, I want 1,000 points, or you can say, actually, I want a specific distance of each point that's different from each other. Once you run that, you now you can see hopefully that comes through in the stream. Maybe zoom in a little bit. But you get, a nice distribution of points, and it's called CrossOn Distribution. Now, that CrossOn distribution, the points that are generated actually have the normals of the original polygon inside of them. And you can now use those to instance the object or instance the setup on it. So if we do that, in the object here, and now we're going to use points. We're going to use max points. Let's do 5, 5. And you can see how they're all oriented wrong now, because we want to actually orient them based on the normal. And there's again always a huge discussion. How do we actually do that? Well, you can go in the notes, and you can probably guess it, but I'm going to bring up the nodal presets. And in nodal presets under instancer, I also have a vertex align, or a vertex normal align, and we can add that. And as soon as that's in there, you can see that there is a morph map that was added, and the vertex normals are stored as a morph map right here. The up vector is defined as y-app, so that's why there's a 1 here. And then it uses a matrix to HPV conversion. And again, this is not tricky, but this is always when you haven't done it in a while, you always go, oh, how did that work again? So it's nice to be able to recall these things. And so with this, let's just do the scale a little bit less. You can now see that, actually switch them to bounding box. You can now see that you have a nice little distribution, and they face nicely away from each other. And if you remember, we set up the object with the controller bend. So if you now bend, you can see that all this kind of stuff bends, accordingly. But it's all initially oriented based on the normal. So that's just combining some of these tools, and literally this is essentially the easy bend setup, which you can do by yourself. But if you even look at that setup, it's not that complicated if you really go through it one by one. I won't bore you with that, but it's something to even if you know how to do it, you have to do it every time. And that's something that, you know, is the annoying part of it. It's not coming up with it initially. It's having to do it every single time again and connecting stuff. And you know, even if you use other items, you know, oh, which item was it, and stuff like that. So I want to get rid of that. And I also want, you know, if somebody wants to just simply bend an object, why would they have to go into notes? And because that's how the bend deformers are now working, you know, why would they have to go in there and try to figure out how to do it? I think it's much easier to use a tool like what I did and then go into the notes and try to follow what actually happened versus setting it up from scratch. And so with a lot of these kind of things, and hopefully people sharing all these node presets, I hope that the entry of nodal editing and what can actually be done there will be made easier, because you can just load presets, you know, and having a good base to start off is very important, I think. That's the CrossOn distribution. Let's see, what else? Oh, there's so many. Anybody that is on there that has used them, what, like, anybody has any favorites? and this is, I mean, actually, you know what? Because otherwise people will complain. Maybe I'll go a little bit into the modeler side, because this is just layout stuff. You know, there's a lot of the presets are actually, you know, in modeler, or not a lot of presets. A lot of the tools are actually in modeler, and there's, you know, those are just, I just realized the only thing I'm actually showing is kind of the new tools versus all the tools from 2015, which are equally as valuable. You know, but the question, will you be having a location for the presets? Public location for sharing. Audio root, good. Yeah, all right. I'll show a little bit of audio root. So, what is audio root? Don't we have enough things now already? Like, you know, we have 100 different Facebook groups. We have 100 different web streams. We have, you know, God, we have forums, and I find it crazy. I mean, even for me personally, I've been dealing with OD tools since 2015. I still find people that have no idea what OD tools really is. And I find that frustrating, to be honest, because I can't post more on Facebook than I already am, because, you know, it gets boring after a while as well. So I was trying to come up with something, and Steph Scott really helped me there, and something to sort of unify users and to give them something that they can go to, and that's called OD root. So OD root is free. You can download it. Again, somebody will send all the links, I'm hoping, but because I can't do that right now. But OD root by design is literally just a button, and when you click that button, a window pops up, and that window, come on, once it loads, sometimes it's a little bit slow, but that window is essentially a Facebook / forum / you know, all kinds of different things, but more a notification thing where, you know, like you can see, like there's a, you know, artist of the week. There's, if you go in here, there's a lot of artwork that's being shown, and that right now pulls from LightWave, because, you know, Steph Scott has done an amazing job with LightWave, and you know, I wholeheartedly support it, and you know, we're trying to do this together. But you can see, you can look at the latest imagery kind of thing. You can let's go back to the database, and this is really this is how it sort of started, you know, of people not knowing about certain things, you know, and you'll find a lot of stuff that's set up here. And the biggest thing, for example, you have a scene here that's called Crackle. Andrew Coleman came up with this. Hopefully I pronounced his name right. And there's different things you can do. Load scene, and that will give you, well, actually, here, we'll just do that. It'll give you the information or more information about it, you know, what kind of license it has, you know, all that kind of stuff. But let me go back to, and you can do things here that like load scene, but I want to show it a different way. So one thing you can also see, as this opened up, you can see down here it says link with OD root established. And that's really the big fundamental difference versus just being another thing. So if instead of going on load scene, I click on here, cancel, if I click on here, you can see that it says downloading asset, please wait. And as soon as it's done downloading, you can see that that scene now is in here. That copies it into your current content folder. You know, anything, you weren't prompted to download anything. It does it all for you. It puts it in the right locations. You can install plugins. You can, I mean, there's so many things you can do here. You can run certain commands. You know, if you wanted to edit the camera, you know, it'll bring up the camera properties, or you know, it'll select the camera and where is the panel? Somewhere off screen. But it'll sort of bring up different panels. It would, you know, textures. So let's go back. Oops, didn't mean to do that. It's hard with less screen state, but there's texture sets here. Some more. Come on. Hey, where are they? Textures. So you can see a whole bunch of different things. So, you know, you can just literally do this. And again, it'll say downloading asset. And when you look at the image editor, at some point in time, you can see they're all being loaded in. So all that kind of stuff, you know, is sort of set now, and or it's meant to be a gateway, you know, to give people easy access to share stuff. You know, my goal is to put the online presets on that so that you can easily copy and paste from there, you know, and probably have I'll probably have a button in the control panel for the presets that says upload the preset if you want to. There's a lot of that kind of stuff. You know, plugins, same thing. A lot of times I have to explain to people how do you install a plugin, and it's in this particular case you just literally click on here, and I already have installed, but it will download the plugin, it'll put it into your plugin folder, it'll add it, and it'll run it. Or, well, actually, it won't run it because for security reasons, I'm not running it. But you have to run it yourself. But it'll add it to LightWave. You don't have to do any of that kind of stuff manually. And you know, as right now there's only my stuff here. Michael Wolf has an external link to his, which, you know, is great. And I'm hoping there's going to be more developers that would want to put their stuff on there. It's not going to cost you anything. It's just, you know, I'm trying to make it easier for the community to find things, you know, that for some odd reason were missed before, and you know, whatever the reasons might be, we're just trying to get rid of it, you know, so that it's easy for them. I'll show one quick thing because I'm almost out of time. Let me go to. In the effort to show some of the other, 1 second, to the model, and bring up modeler again as well. Sorry, Steph, dog takes too long. Dog menu. Yeah, there's so many, and there's videos too about, you know, how to use some of the stuff in there. It's extremely cool. I can highly recommend it. Please test it out. You know, if you don't like it, tell us why. So 1 second. There's a reason why I'm showing that. But copy paste is another free tool that's available from me. It's not part of OD Tools. It's completely open source. And what it allows you to do is, for example, I'll make my favorite toroid here again. Oops. Oh, something is very slow. Come on. So if we have an object here, there's something called what I call copy paste, and we just copy it to an external. It's one button clicked. If you then go to modal, or I think about another, God, I don't know how many other applications I've done, but a crap load of them, probably 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 applications. And all you would really have to do is you go here and you go paste from external. and you now have your toroid in here. And you can make modifications in here, you know, like let's just say level some of these. And so with that, we'll go copy this one now. And we go back to LightWave, and we go paste. And there's my updated model. This works, again, with ZBrush, Blender, 3D Code, Substance. God, I think literally Rhino. There's 60 in 3 Studio Max, or whatever it is. And so you can, it's made for, you know, sometimes you find yourself in a specific tool and you realize, man, that one specific thing, I could do in another application 10 times faster. That's what copy and paste external is for. You just copy it, paste it somewhere else. You can, of course, and we've done this in some of the LightWiki Hangout chats, where you can copy it to a Dropbox folder. That Dropbox folder is shared, so you can now copy paste stuff over the internet. So many different, you know, possibilities in this. And it keeps UVs, it keeps weight maps, it keeps morphs, stuff like that. So it's saved me a lot of time. Hopefully, I know a lot of people are actually using it, so I'm hoping that it saves a lot of people a lot of time. And again, I think it's 10 minutes to go. I could ramble on forever, but if there's any more questions, I'd rather answer those.
All right, so I think it's about that time that we start doing the drawing. Yep.
Oh yeah, you have
totally that time. Okay, so so everybody, if you want to be in a drawing, you have to put in.
Wait, actually, wait, one second. Carlo brings up an interesting point. I got to show one more thing, and I was actually going to do that in the very beginning. I totally forgot.
All right.
If I go back to LightWave here.
Special.
So the other thing that I've done in OD Tools is, you know, first of all, there's a help button here, and it makes it easy for you to submit bugs. There's a Discord channel that's set up, and there's also the tool intro videos. Now, the tool intro videos, if I'm coming in here, that's literally, there is, I think, let me just check so I don't say anything wrong. There is 6.5 hours of videos for OD Tools that are on the Vimeo channel that you can watch that go through not every tool, but almost every tool. I tried. I still do them at times, you know. So there is a lot of information here, and that also you can get from the, 1 second here, you can get from the purchase page. 1 second. So, you know, the purchase page is right here, and there's also a list of all the tools, where they work, where they don't work. The videos are here. Yes, it's a little bit hidden, but the videos are also here, and something like that. So you can go through all of them. The pie menu, again, it's watch the video. I can't do it in 5 minutes. A substance reader, that's I'm debating whether I should release it or not, to be honest, just because of support that's required. I will show one quick thing, and that's going to be only taking 5 minutes, but I will do. Let's see, this right here. And so the Substance plugin, what it essentially is, it allows you to, it has nothing to do with Substance Painter. It allows you to use Substance designer files, so SBS AR files. There's a crap load of them out there. They're freaking awesome. The whole process is awesome. LightWave, unfortunately, doesn't support them natively. It's not LightWave's fault. You know, so I try to work on something that makes these worthwhile. And so what we can actually do is select a Substance file, and 1 second, find still open. Come on.
2 minutes.
Yeah. Come on, I can find the other here.
Do I hear birds in the background?
Yeah. So anyway, so the Substance file, and let's do details here, you know, they're great because they're essentially all procedural files, kind of like a little bit like the old school dark tree thing. And so they're 12 kilobytes. This is, for example, a 12 kilobyte file. And when you launch it, or when you run the plugin, it asks you for this. And you launch it, and it essentially brings up the UI, which in substance, you can, when somebody creates an SBS AR file, they can expose certain parameters. And in this particular one, all these parameters were exposed. And when you want to look at what that actually does, you click Update Render, and it gives you a little thumbnail. And essentially, that's an image that would be baked out. And you know, if you want more bricks, for example, on the Y, you do that. And you know, now when you update it, it updates the amount of bricks. So it's procedurally generated. It's freaking amazing, you know, how it works. It shows you all the different bump channels, height, you know, normal map channels. And the cool thing is you can keyframe every single one of them. So if you go back to the fuse, right now there's a lot of aging. You can see we can turn the aging off to 0, update again, or you can have automated update and then automatically update. But you can see all of that aging is gone now. And that's animatable. So throughout the timeline, you can actually do that. And every single time this gets updated, every single time there's an update, it would rebake the image on the fly. So you're not going to end up with 100 different images unless you want to, in which case you can render an image sequence. So if somebody doesn't have a Substance plugin, but you want to pass on a scene that makes use of these images, you just render out the timeline and it will create an image sequence. And of course, you can apply it to the surface, like any surface that you have selected. You would essentially just go apply to surface. There's either LightWave native or Octane. And if you apply it to the LightWave native here, you can see it immediately got added. You can go in here, you can see all the image maps are loaded in and stored and connected. That's all done for you. A little bit like the PBR Importer, but specifically geared towards the Substance designer workflow. And that's it. That's it. That's all I got.
All right.
Change colors and, you know, update. And again, as soon as you update also, you can see that it'll update here as well. You know, that's always native.
Now,
always
keep in mind, we'll have you back, Oliver.
Sorry?
Keep in mind, we will have you back. So you don't have to you don't have to show anything right now. There'll be more time to come.
I'm done.
This is good. You're done. Great.
I mean,
all
again,
right.
This is about probably 70 of the 430 tools. So,
oh man.
Hopefully it wasn't too boring. Sorry, the preset stuff went on longer than I thought it would. But
all right. Cool. That was great. That was great. Great stuff. All right. So Virgin Pi. I've noticed. Yeah, Virgin Pi made a meeting. That's Ken. Virgin Pi is Ken. He's one of the LightWave developers, one of the LightWave programmers. So Ken has been charged with the UI interface design for the new LightWave 20, well, whichever the next new LightWave comes out, whatever version it will be, he's in charge of the UI design of it. So, which is a great opportunity.
Let me just add one more thing since you brought it up.
Well, no, I'm not.
You know, a lot of people will say this should be native and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
If it wasn't for people like Ken and some of the other developers, this would not exist.
I agree. I mean, I'm sorry. I've known Ken way before he was even involved with LightWave, and I knew him when he was doing his I forget what the name of his that program, the little color. It actually found its way into LightWave. Actually, the color picker program. I forget what it was called. Jovian. That's it. Yeah, that was Jovian, and then Jovian found its way into the LightWave color picking engine. So. I think Ken's a very valuable asset to Newtek. He has a good handle in terms of what the users need and want, as well as what Newtek needs to do in terms of improving its program. So do me a favor, Oliver. Would you stop sharing your screen, please, so we can do the drawing. You're gonna go to your Adobe Connect down there in the bottom. There we go. Cool. Let's go ahead and connect my screen, and let's bring over my browser. Okay, cool. All right, there we go. Let's go ahead and maximize our browser here. And let's go over to our gift giveaway engine. Okay, here's the deal, guys. You have to type in LWUG into the chat box in order to be entered into the drawing. Now, if you look over here to the left-hand side, where it says Elamon and Carlo Jojin and various users here, those are the ones that are entered. So we have 60 people. We have 60 people in this meeting. Good meeting. Good attendance. Thank you all for being here. This is great. Ken, you mentioned about, you noticed that the streaming was on the Chromolution site instead of the LightWave site. I'm trying to build attendance. I just thought I can build faster attendance and recognition from a location that I knew I had attendance already, and then later on we can switch back over. But that's why it's on the Chromolution site. But LightWave site is still there. That we're talking about the Twitch site. There is a separate LightWave Twitch site for the meetings. But I felt with the number of people I already had following me, that whenever we go on for the meeting, all those people following me will be notified. So I figured it'll be just strategically it'd be better just to put it onto the LightWave site, or the not LightWave site, but the Chromolution site. All right, Mandala. Okay, so my handle is totally not showing up on the list. Okay. LWUG. Type it in again, Mandala. Everybody should be. Now, if you're already there, that's interesting. So I'm seeing, let's see, I see 3 active. 3 active is not showing up. That's interesting. Do I need to refresh this? I'm afraid if I refresh this, I'm going to lose everybody's notifications. It's still showing up as... Alright, so this is what I'm going to do. I may end up losing the notification. But if I do, I'm going to have you guys retype LightWave LWUG back in there. Alright, so let me do this now. I'm going to refresh the page. Maybe that's a problem. This is really odd. Normally, it sees everybody in there with no problem. So I'm going to refresh. Here we go. Yeah, that's what I thought. I knew that was going to happen. So I'm going to have you guys type in. Oh, wait a minute. What's happening here? All right. So I'm going to go to keyword. I'm going to put LWUG. Okay. There's the keyword. So do me a favor, everybody. Type in LWUG now. There we go. They're coming in now. There you go. There they are. There you guys. Okay. The page just need to be refreshed. Technology is not... There you go. Mandala, you in there? Yep, Mandala's in there now. So the page just need to be refreshed. That was all. There you go. They're all coming in. Great. Everybody, LWUG. Put it in now. I'll give you about a minute to do so. Yep, we got 20, 21. Good. They're all coming in. All right. 22. Who are we missing? We have 60 people on here, right? So if I come over here, I'm showing, well, there was 60 there. There probably is. It's just that they're not showing up inside the numbers are completely correct. 27 here now. Okay, keep going, guys. John Merchant is there. LightWiki's there. Mandala's there. Yep. Zero Frost. Cosmic Debris Cat. Cosmic Debris Cat. Carlo Jojin is there, and Bad Dragon, and yeah, you're all coming in. You're all coming in. All right, is that it? All right, we have 27 people here with a total of almost 60 attending. All right, so LWUG, give you about 30 more seconds. Okay, Neon ZFX just came in. Now it's 28. All right, Elamod. Okay, what's taking you guys so long? Only been hollering about LWUG for the whole meeting. 28. We got 28. All right, John Merchant, Mac Beowulf, and Mandala are all subscribers Thank you so very much. So guys, if you subscribe to my site, you get access to all the videos. Now, because I'm an affiliate, the videos will be up for about a week or so free, but I will be placing these on the YouTube site later on. But everything else on that site that is there, you have access to it. With subscription price like $4, $4.99 a month or something like that. It's really cheap. There's over 100 videos, and I'm doing recordings every week. Actually, more than one recording a week, like two or three sometimes. So, so definitely get involved in that. Join in as a subscriber, and then you get access to all the videos I ever did. So Jason was complaining that yesterday he was the only subscriber on, but now you've got 2 more with you there, Jason. Maybe we can get more. Maybe. Okay, so it looks like everybody's there. So I guess we're ready to do the roll. We got 29 people out of 60. So I'm assuming everybody else already has Creative Cloud or not interested. Mandala says, pro tip, if you're an Amazon Prime member, you get a free Twitch subscription. You can use it on this if you choose. That's right. So if you're an Amazon Prime member, you do get a free subscription to Twitch, and they give you a free token, I guess like a token, which is basically a subscription. So you can use that subscription on anybody that you want, but using it here will be actually greatly appreciated. Right? And you'll have access to all the user group meeting recordings and all the personal recordings. I mean, I've got stuff on here where I'm creating the Stegosaurus. Actually, that's the latest thing that I'm doing. I'm going to start on that again this week. The Space 1999 Eagle 1, the Starship Enterprise, modeling that in LightWave. We were modeling the flying sub from Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, the phaser from Star Trek, the original phaser from Star Trek from the original series, which is the cooler one out of all of them. Just saying. Yeah, okay, cool. All right, I think everybody's in there. So we have 29 people in here. So we're going to do the roll. Here we go. You guys get to watch. Now, if I pick you, if you win, I need to have your email address. So message me your email address. Also, I'll type in my personal email address so you can send it direct to me as well. So steve@ChromeIllusion.com. Okay, so if you win it, you're there. And make sure that you follow me. Everybody should be following me on this Twitch page. So hit the follow button so you're notified of our meetings. And make sure you join the LightWave Users Group mailing list, all right? And that will be so that you're notified of anything going on in the community, LightWave community, workshops. And as well, we know next Sunday we're going to have our LightWave roundtable discussion. So basically, we just bring on a whole bunch of people into Adobe Connect, and they all get to share something with their favorite thing they like in LightWave. And it's basically a free-for-all presentation. Anybody can jump on board and do whatever they want. And we do that every Sunday. So we should do Sundays about 10 a.m. in the morning, which is a good time because it's a good time for the European people as well as the people here in the U.S. All right, so I should probably stop talking and go ahead and do our rolling, right? All right, okay, here we are. We're getting ready to do the roll, the wonderful roll for the 1-year subscription to Creative Cloud. Thank you very much, Adobe, for the support. Adobe supports us on this. And let's hit the roll button and see who gets it. We have 3 Addiv. Very good. Congratulations. 3 Addiv is our winner. So now, 3 Addiv, do me a favor. Send me your email address. You can message it to me through here, or send it to my email address, steve@ChromeIllusion.com, and I will just place in my email address again over here in the chat box. Send it to me, and I will get you a notification. So 3 Addiv, cool, great. Well, I hope I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation. We're most definitely going to be back. We usually do this the first Sunday of every month. Usually it's around 10 a.m. We did it at 9 a.m. because I have an appointment today. And I think I'm hitting the door as soon as I'm closed on the meeting. Thank you very, very much, Oliver. You've been wonderful. You've been absolutely wonderful. So I enjoyed it. And we'll have you back, definitely. And I've yet to confirm the next presenter, but we'll have that out pretty soon. If I remember correctly, I think it was Kevin. I can't remember, but I'll have notifications out to you pretty soon. You're all most welcome. You're very, very welcome. Thank you for being here. 60 people, 60 in attendance. The numbers are growing. Very, very good. All right, so 3 out of, make sure you email me your email address so I can send that to Adobe. They will contact you with the information you need to subscribe to the Creative Cloud for your 1-year subscription. If you already have the Creative Cloud, all you're doing is you're adding in another year after where your last one leaves off. So wherever your last one leaves off, you got another year on top of that. Okay. All right. Yes, everybody have a great day and evening. This has been wonderful. We'll see you soon. So I'm going to stop the recording.